This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Greetings, Dog Pound Nation. Welcome to the Two Green Browns podcast, part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. I'm John Cahill, joined by Neil Dunworth. Head over to brownsaccess.com to see all our other content. Before we start today, please go check out our friends, Zabo Apparel in Vermilion, Ohio. Purveyors of the finest apparel in Ohio. Get online and buy their Support Each Other Now shirt. You will be helping out local families with that purchase. On today's show, we are delighted to be joined by your favorite kicker and mine, Austin Seibert. Austin, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Awesome. You're in Texas at the moment, are you?
I am. I'm in Dallas.
You're in Dallas at the moment, and lovely fine weather, I'd imagine, at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty warm. It was like 90 yesterday.
Awesome. Great to have it. And it's sort of does that allow for a bit more training for your off-field, your off program at the moment? Does it help with access to outside locations?
Yeah, I mean, just because it's warm, but down here in Dallas, the Metroplex is so big and it's pretty populated, so it's kind of hard to just find those empty, vacant fields. So most of the time, they're locked up high school fields right now. So.
Yeah. So at least you're getting access to that. So Austin, I say we're going to go back a little bit. So it's a year since we had you on. It's more or less a year exactly since we had you on. So the last time we had you on was just post-draft, and you were getting ready for rookie mini camps and all that kind of thing. And it was really interesting at the start of last year, where there was so little going on for the Browns, that the biggest story, I'm really interested to gauge whether you were aware of this or not. The biggest story really going on in last offseason for the Browns, or one of the biggest stories, was the kicking battle going into preseason. And there was a real perception. People were quite concerned because there was a perception maybe that you weren't doing as well as people maybe were expecting for a fifth round draft pick, blah blah blah, coming into camp, and that there was a real battle going on with yourself and Greg Joseph for the position, where by realistically, I think if most people had to sit down and think about the fact that you'd spent a fifth round draft pick on a kicker, that you were probably going to get the edge no matter what way the kicking thing went on. And just what was your perception from the inside then? Because as I said, from the outside, people were a bit concerned, and that it was a battle, and that maybe that you were struggling for some reason. Was that a reality, or was that far from reality?
No, I mean, yes. Through OTAs, minicamp, I did decent. Came in making kicks. Was doing fine, and then we had that 6-week break before we come back for fall camp, and I kind of hit a rut in that. Was just trying to get out of it, and got into camp. And then, I mean, all you can do is really just kind of hope for the best and just work hard. So I hit a slump, a very bad slump, probably the worst I've kicked in a long time. But I mean, shoot, it's for the better, because when you go through that much adversity, like I went through all that stuff, I went through everyone hating me, and it made it so much easier on game day, because I literally went from caring about what people thought, all that other stuff, to giving no care at all. I just wanted to go kick the ball. I did not care what other people thought. So just having that kind of mindset and going through that much adversity kind of just changed my mindset, and something clicked. So I think it was for the better. So.
And whose faces were you picturing on the ball as you were knocking it over the bar? Was it that kind of a case of saying, right, I'm not kicking the ball, I'm kicking someone's head here out of anger? No, that's I suppose that's a good way to be, is to getting into the season with that kind of having been through adversity, because if it's all rose petals and a gravy train before you get to the season, and then you face adversity in the season, you can see the wheels come off people's careers, I suppose, very, very quickly. But I suppose, how was the season for you, for yourself? Were expectations met for yourself, and how do you feel you performed as a whole on the season itself?
I thought As soon as that third preseason game came around and I kind of hit my stride against Tampa, just that was a confidence booster, hitting that 54-yarder and then kind of just rolling from there. But yeah, I thought I did okay. For me, just proving people that I can hit those longer field goals because I didn't have that many in college. But I mean, I hit pretty well beyond 40 yards this last year, especially in the stadiums that we play in and the weather we play in for a rookie. But other than that, I think I did well. I thought our kickoff team was very good. My goal is just to get better directional and try and get more hang time. But field goals, I think I just need to just get better on a couple of those long ones, and that'll push me up to those 90% marks. And then extra points is the tackle right now. That's what we're trying to get down because it's like a field goal every time you go out there. So my mindset's definitely had to change on that, and then just staying calm out on the field. That was big for me, like going through all that adversity. I kind of found peace and calmness through all that stuff. Really challenged me. But other than that, I don't think I have that success that I did last year if I don't go through all that turmoil in camp. So
that's interesting that you said that. Obviously, it's kind of, I think we mentioned this the last time you were on. The kicking is almost like playing golf. You know, you have to have that almost zen confidence in yourself while being calm to be able to just go through your motion and stroke it over the bar. And you mentioned about the trying to find that calmness. Let's say that this year, 2019 or 2020 goes ahead and there's no fans in the stadium. Will that be more difficult? I know it's probably impossible for you to answer, but have you guys been thinking about that scenario? Would that be a more difficult scenario, or would it be an easier scenario when you don't have 60,000 people wanting you to miss it? Or would the fact that you can hear the guys in front of you can hear every word they say, trying to put you off a small bit more? What would that be? Is that something that you guys are working on from a mental standpoint?
I mean, not right now. I haven't really put too much thought into it. And I think a lot of guys, I mean, obviously a lot of those guys are going to want people in the stands because they'll thrive off of that energy and that pressure. Mm-hmm. But I haven't put much thought into it. My goal is to go out there and just ignore everything. So most of the time it's all white noise. I don't pay attention to it. I just got my three focal points like kind of going on a wheel in my head. So I'm just doing that constantly. And I kind of just get zoned in. So,
excellent. That's great. And you mentioned there about kickoffs and stuff like that. Obviously, it's an area that you kind of come down on one side or the other. There's certain aspects of, I suppose, the NFL world and the coach and some coaching staffs that want to outlaw the kicking rules and so on like that. Now we know that the coach Prefer is a big proponent of the kickoff rules and so on. What are your opinions on maybe how this has changed even in the last year or so, and how has it changed your prep since we last spoke about it with regards to kickoffs?
Yeah, I think kickoffs are a very important aspect of the game, not just because I'm a kicker, but if you have a kicker who has a strong leg, he can hang that ball up there and you can drop it right on the goal line like we do. And then that returner's got to return it. Yeah. Okay, it's not like we're hitting it 7 deep, driving it with a 3-8 hang time. Okay, anyone can do that in the NFL, or they should be able to. We're hanging it up 4-4, 4-5 at the goal line, and by the time the returner catches the ball, my guys are returned our kickoff teams down to the 30-yard line. That's why we led the NFL in opponent start position. Not only because our kickoff team, and that helps our team out in general, just with field position and momentum. So that's one of the big things, and I think we should keep kickoffs just because of that aspect, and plus kickoffs start the game and start the half. So, and there's big momentum issues with it. So I don't know why they would want to get rid of it, but I can see all the concussion protocol and all that other stuff. But we sign up for this. It's not like we don't know what we're getting into. We know what we're doing. So
when you're in a special teams kind of huddle or before obviously kickoff, you can strategize what you're supposed to do, and you look at the gunners that you got running down the field. Is there somebody that is I suppose talk me through that kind of huddle. Would you kind of point out and say, okay, Damien Ratley, this one's got your name all over it. I want you to crease that returner before he gets it. I'm going to hang it up. It's going to be on your side. You're going to cream him before the second he takes the first step. And I suppose who are kind of the go-to gunners on the team? And I know I don't want you picking out favorites, but obviously there are guys that absolutely really love to be that gunner, to get down there and to mash a returner just as he gets the ball into his hands. So who are those guys?
Yeah. So from a kickoff standpoint, when they're not really called gunners, that's more of a punt deal. But on kickoffs, we have what they go by numbers. So the guys closest to me are 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Generally, your 1s are your safeties, but they can move around and be disguised. 5s are usually your linebackers, your heavy hitters. And they all have lanes. So they all fit according to those lanes. And I'm a safety, so my job is to basically plug up any holes that are formed. But other than that, I mean, I think we had a lot of our guys actually got in on plays this year. I mean, shoot, there were multiple guys who had big plays on kickoff this year, so I couldn't really narrow it down to just one. But it takes all of us to make that one person look good, though, you know? Everyone has to be doing their job for us to get that tackle inside the 25. So I think with as many guys as we have coming back that were on kickoff last year, I think our goal is to be the best in the NFL this year. So
excellent. And we know that Coach Prefer is high on that and he's big on that. And realistically, nearly every time he spoke last year, he did compliment the return game, whether it was the kicking game, and then he complimented the return game so within the special teams phases. So he is really interesting guy to listen to, and I'm delighted that we still have him on board. John, you've a few questions you want to ask?
On last season, just before we start looking forward, Austin, one thing I want to just look back on and get your opinion on, and I suppose just to give you a little bit of context how we viewed this incident, and I suppose when we refer to the incident, you probably know where we're going with Miles in the Pittsburgh game. Every weekend in Ireland we have games of hurling, and hurling is the game with the sticks and the helmets and all that, right? So it is quite common in Ireland at a junior hurling match, and I would say every weekend, for an argument to break out, for half of each of the players' teams to take off their helmets and beat the shit out of someone else with a helmet in one hand and a stick in the other hand, and to go after each other with a helmet and a stick. So when myself and Neil witnessed the incident, we sort of witnessed it through a different lens, and we sort of went, "Oh, look, Miles took his helmet off and hit that. That's not good." And we sort of moved on. We did not expect what came after, because apparently, and I suppose contextually, when you look at American sports and American football, this is not the done thing. It's not a common thing to happen. So we were a little bit taken aback with the I suppose the fervor with which everyone was quite willing to bury Miles with. So just to get your perspective as a player on the sideline, was it an occasion where were you thinking to yourself, where's my helmet? I'm going onto the pitch, or were you standing back sort of thinking, ooh, this is not good?
So I had a bad game that night.
That's the one where you missed the two, on that game.
Yeah, so I was kind of just kind of mind my own business on the bench. Yeah, I mean, I saw it happen, and then kind of I just listened to how things unfolded like the next day. And I mean, it'd be hard for someone not to retaliate if you're getting called racial slurs and getting punched in the nuts and spit on and things like that. But that's what society is today. That's not acceptable. Back in the day, if you've seen that Michael Jordan documentary, basketball has changed tremendously since his days. So it's just becoming less and less acceptable to be more physical and violent in sports. One, because of like health reasons, and two, just because of how society is trending. I personally, I didn't think it was that big of an issue. But with that being said, he used his helmet as a weapon, and you you can't do that because he could have really hurt Mason, but at the same time, he was asking for it. But yeah, other than that, I mean, you just got to be smart. You just got to stay calm and not overreact and just keep playing. So
I suppose, and it's difficult not to get personal. And I suppose that from a fan's point of view, Mason Rudolph presents as one of those guys that, you know, he's like a little bit of a caricature of, you know, the like he's like a lightning rod for the type of person or the type of QB that the fans of opposing teams love to hate. You know, so he's not going to get a sympathy vote, I think, and he didn't get it across the league, really, if we're being honest. You know, I don't think, and I think a lot of that stands to Miles' character across the game and across the whole LFL. Like that probably stood to him. And as a second part to that question, Austin, you know, a lot of chatter about that afterwards. Did it have a detrimental effect to morale in the team and the locker room going forward for the few games after? Like, you know, was it a big issue to overcome?
I mean, it wasn't. I'd say when you lose Miles, yeah, you're losing a piece of your team, but at the same time, it's the NFL, so you got a bunch of grown men playing football, and it's just the next one up, you know. So either he does that, or if he gets injured, it's the next man up. And yeah, I don't think anyone put a huge wager on it mentally, because you just got to move forward and do your best. So
exactly. So moving forward, Austin, we have a next year that's sort of full of sort of big black holes at the moment as to where the game is going to actually be. Will there be a season? Will it be played on time? Will there be fans in the stadium? So a lot of questions coming on. How is that affecting your preparation at the moment? So we're seeing your home gym set up, not as manly as the Scottish Hammers.
yeah.
Scottish Hammers setup is much more manly, homemade setup out of wood, made out of his own hand, with woods and lumps of telephone poles or something in his garage. We've seen recently. So you all seem to be very well set up with your gyms and stuff at home. So I suppose what I'm interested in, the online component and working remotely. How does that work, and what does it look like?
Yeah. So we'll get updated workouts every 2-3 weeks, and we'll do those. They plan them according to what we have in our gym, so I can pretty much do almost anything. And then based off of what you have, guys are doing different workouts. And then the NFL allowed guys up to $1,500 reimbursed to buy equipment. So I took advantage of that as well. It's free money. So got some dumbbells and some things. And then when it comes to Zoom meetings and things like that, yeah, we check in. We have team meetings, and then we also meet with Prefer and just go over our weekly routines, watch film, things like that. So it's basically like we're at the building. We're just not in the building. And then I'm just not getting live reps with Jamie and Charlie. So other than that, I mean, everything is really the same. I'm just in Texas right now, so.
Who wins in a wrestling match between Gillen and Charlie Hewitt?
Oh man, I don't know. I probably Jamie.
Really? Wow. Yeah. No, that's he's getting bigger.
Have you seen Jamie's forehead?
Yeah.
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 Feel a thing.
Yeah, he's it's that rugby background. I think you get so many hits to the head with no helmet at a certain point, you know, you can take a hit, but Charlie's no slouch either. Charlie's actually our is our next dream guest for this podcast, Austin. So if you can ever help us out on that front. Charlie has virtually no social media presence, so we don't get to see anything that's going on with Charlie Hewitt other than the really cool pictures that you put up with you all dressed in the same clothes or with the same hats or whatever.
He does have an Instagram.
Does he have the Instagram? Well, I'll have to hit him up on Instagram.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see a bit more of Charlie going forward. And as I said, this kind of this podcast, we pride ourselves a little bit on kicking and punting with regards to guests, and even there's not too many podcasts or places that did punting and drafting and punting and kicking draft previews this year, Austin. And I had a little look myself. I'm the resident punting and kicking and long snapping scout at the moment. So we had a little look at the draft this year. There's a couple of surprises with guys that have landed on teams kicking wise. I just want to get your opinion on. I suppose the really interesting was Rohrwasser to the Patriots. To me, that was completely out of left field. Were you aware of this guy from Marshall coming into the draft?
No, I wasn't. I even spoke to my agent about it, and no one really knew.
This is a Bill Belichick special.
Yeah. So, I mean, hope all the well for him. Hope he does good. But other than that, I have no idea. I've never kicked with the dude. Never watched him kick in person. Nothing. Never heard about him or anything. So, props to him for getting drafted, though. Another
surprise to me was Sloman out of Miami of Ohio to the Rams. Was this a guy on your radar? He was the first one to go in the draft, I think, was he? Or in the second?
He was 7th round, so I think he was the 3rd because they had Tyler Bass.
Tyler Bass went before. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know he goes to Colts kicking just like I do, and he's just a repeatable field goal kicker. He doesn't always hit huge kickoffs, but he makes field goal kicks, and his 4 years at Miami, Ohio really show that. So he had a really good senior year. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't see it coming either, but I want to say that the Rams head coach, McVay, has ties to Miami of Ohio. I don't know if I'm correct.
Yeah, no, I think he played wide receiver there for a season.
Yeah, so there could be that. But other than that, yeah.
And then I think the other surprise then was Dominic Eberle landing at the Raiders. So of particular interest to an international football podcast, Dominic Eberle, German guy from Utah, has landed on the Raiders. So I think he's there for a competition, I'd imagine. I think there's someone there already with the Raiders. Carlson.
Yeah, they have Daniel.
Yeah, so like that'll be a competition there. And Blankenship, another one of the guys that was sort of highly touted coming out, landing at Indianapolis. He's big boots to fill there.
Yeah. So with Dominic, I know he's a clutch field goal kicker. So it'll be interesting to see what happens out there in Vegas. But Daniel's very good as well, and Daniel has a big leg. And then Rodrigo, it's interesting that he chose the Colts because they have Chase and Vinatieri still there. But if I were him, I probably would have chose Tennessee or a team like that to where you're going in on one-on-one competition instead of against two guys. But shoot, I mean, he's in a good spot if he does win that out. So Indianapolis is a nice place to play.
Which kicker do you think has the best chance to succeed or the best chance to make an impact with where they've landed?
I'd say probably Tyler Bass up in Buffalo. Having a 5th-round draft pick spent on you, and then Hauschka didn't have a great year last year, and he's getting older as well.
Costing more money.
And they're going to want results. And then kicking in Buffalo is really hard to kick in, just like it is in Cleveland. So I imagine they want a fresh big leg. Tyler Bass brings that to the table. So I guess we'll see. But that'd be my guess. But then again, I don't know. And then the Patriots kicker, the kid from Marshall. I mean, I don't even know if he has any competition right now.
Yeah, he might be just anointed from the beginning.
Yeah,
might be his. Bill has put his hand on him and said, "You're the man," and that is it. And I don't think there's too many people going to argue with Bill Belichick. But But
we'll see.
Before we go, Austin, before we leave you, what are your hopes for the coming season? What sort of goals have you set yourself for the coming season?
Yeah, I want to have the best kickoff team in the league, and I also want to have the highest average hang times for kickoffs, for field goals, no missed extra points, make all those. And then I want to go have a better field goal percentage than I did this last year, so 87% or higher. And those are my goals right now. But yeah.
Pretty much the perfect season for yourself, Austin, heading down that road.
Yeah, that's the NFL, though. That's what you have to do. So,
well, I suppose the story is, if you don't do that, you can turn around next year and have a UDFA or a 5th or 6th round draft pick. Because, man, we are stacking up those draft picks. We could draft 2 kickers and 2 punters in the lower rounds next year, according to the way we're stacking these draft picks up. But yeah, it's a competition game, and look, best of luck with all that for the future, Austin. Thanks very much for joining us today. Really do appreciate your insight and having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks to everyone for listening today. We hope you're enjoying the content and it's brightening up some of your day in these weird times. Follow us on Twitter, myself at John Cahill _IRL and Neil at 2greenbrowns. We would really appreciate any retweets, and tag a friend that may like the pod to help us grow. Thanks for everything, and until next time, go Brownies.